So in this lesson, I'm going to take a look at 4 arpeggio forms that I use all the time when I'm improvising. These are very easy forms to remember. They fall under your fingers really well, and I think it'll be pretty easy for you to sort of hang on to them and put them to use in your own improv. All an arpeggio really is the notes of a chord played one at a time. When you play an arpeggio, you can play these notes in any order. You can go up and down and back and forth and spin them around whatever direction you want. It's still all the same arpeggio. The most obvious use of an arpeggio is to sort of map out the chord tones. So if you're playing over a C chord, a C arpeggio will show you all the quote-unquote right notes to play over that chord. But there's a little bit of a less obvious use of arpeggios, and this is especially useful in modal improvisation, where you can sort of superimpose different arpeggios over the mode that you're playing. And I'll dig into that a little bit later in this lesson. First, I'm going to show you the arpeggio forms. So this first one is major 7 arpeggio, and I'm going to do it in the key of G. It's sort of based around this G bar chord, and it's going to look like this. And in particular, I want to point out a cluster of notes in here that's really easy to get your head around. It starts on your root note with your pinky. In this case for G, it's on the 5th fret, and then it just makes a nice diagonal line right up the strings from there. And then adds a G on top. I'll also include that major 7th, the F sharp, underneath it. There's another major 7 arpeggio I like to play a lot. This one's based on the caged system C shape. I'm going to do it in the key of G again here, so that's going to fall in the 7th position. And the arpeggio is going to look like this. And that whole arpeggio is pretty easy to play, but there is a little cluster of notes here on the top 3 strings that I think is particularly easy and useful because you can kind of see the shape of like a D chord right there. There are also a couple of minor 7 arpeggios that I use quite often too. One is based on the A minor shaped bar chord, so if I wanted to play an E minor 7 arpeggio, I'd do this A minor shaped bar chord here in 7th fret. The arpeggio looks like this. And again, here we have a little diagonal line, a little cluster of notes that's really easy to remember. And then there's also a minor 7 arpeggio based off of an E minor shaped bar chord that I like quite a bit too. So if I have a B minor chord here, a B minor 7 arpeggio, and again, like the top 3 or 4 strings of that are a really easy little pattern to remember. So I'm going to give you a few examples here of how I might take some of these arpeggios and superimpose them over the mode that I'm playing in, and then ultimately return to chord tones that belong to that mode directly. My examples here are going to be in the A Mixolydian mode. So this first example takes the G major 7 arpeggio cluster that I was talking about earlier here in 2nd position, and resolves back to an A chord. I should mention that the web page that I have that corresponds to this lesson, I have these examples written out. I'm going to take some liberties with the examples rhythmically just to make the phrasing sound a little better, but the notes I'm using are going to be directly correlated to what you see on that page. You can extend that G major 7 idea out for a while. Now I'm going to move up and do a couple off of the C shape G major 7 arpeggio. It can also be really effective to use either B minor 7 or E minor 7 arpeggios in the mode of A Mixolydian. So I'll start with a B minor 7 arpeggio based off of this B minor 7 chord form, and again resolving to this A form. I can use that same form to play an E minor 7 up here in the 7th position. Again, just that little top cluster that I was showing you. And this time I'll resolve to an A chord based on the caged D shape right in that same area. And then we also have the E minor 7 shape of that arpeggio. I showed you that here in 12th position, based off of this shape bar chord. So we can use that in E minor, also off of the B minor position, and I'll show you a couple of those examples too. Okay, so to sum things up, I'm going to give you some quick little rules that you can sort of keep in your back pocket, easy little things to remember so that you can apply these ideas on the fly. I'll put up a link here to the webpage that corresponds to this lesson. There's a PDF that outlines all of the arpeggios, and the lesson runs down all of these things in a little bit more detail.